Coming up, the Bourne Stuntacular has now been announced for Universal Orlando Resort, and we're going to talk about that and probably say Stuntacular a whole bunch of times. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly right now. We'll get to the bottom of all of it. From the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida, this is the Universal edition of the Diz Unplugged. This is episode 235 of the Diz Unplugged Universal Edition. The Diz Unplugged Universal Edition is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel, experts at helping you plan the perfect Universal vacation. Visit them on the web at www.dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. The Diz Unplugged Universal Edition is also brought to you by DizBoards.com. If you're looking for even more information to help you plan your Universal Orlando vacation, head over to DizBoards.com and join the discussion today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Diz Unplugged Universal Edition. I'm your host, Craig Williams. Today, I'm joined alongside by my sniffly co-host.
I know,
He's got the sniffles. A good case of the sniffles there. Yeah,
sniffy.
I know you're
Call me
overcoming your.
Sniffleupagus. I hated myself for saying it so quickly.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, and it was also offensive to Snuffleupagus, and pretty much all of the Sesame Street characters, if I have to say so myself.
You've seen Grouch then?
I have seen. I loved it. I loved it though. So, and I'm glad to see that you're doing a lot better than you were last week.
There's no coughing.
Yeah, it's I can't remember if it was last week or the week before. Like, you were clearly sick, and we didn't record last week, so the episode we released last week, the intro and outro, was from the week that we recorded when you were clearly sick, but you weren't trying to tell anyone you were sick, but you were acting like everything you were doing is like.
I feel like that's the one I couldn't breathe.
It absolutely was. But I think you did a lot better during the Universal portion recording. Granted, it was like 3 minutes that we did real quick versus the Walt Disney World show. But yeah, you were sick. You were sick. It's all good, though. You're on the mend.
I'm healthy now.
You are, and I'm happy that you're healthy. We're all happy you're here. And this is going to be an interesting episode for you. So, I mean, we've got a lot to unpack here. We have nothing else to talk about besides the announcement that was made last week. The announcement that was made recently and of recent times, that the Jason Bourne stunt show that has been rumored for decades upon decades and years and eons and centuries is finally coming to Universal Orlando Resort. And I am being slightly facetious there. No, it hasn't been rumored for decades, but we'll get into it here. So why not just jump in?
Why not just cliff dive into this, since we're talking about a spectacular stunt show?
Well, there will be diving, death-defying drops and diving, but
I don't think I've seen all the Bourne movies. I think I've only seen the first two, to be honest with you.
I want to say I watched the first three, and then I haven't.
You didn't see the Jeremy Renner one?
I definitely did not watch the Jeremy Renner one.
I own it. Like, my dad got it for me for Christmas, and I was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to watch this without having seen the third one, so I still haven't watched it. So I'm like, they're just sitting there. Oh, you know what? Actually, I think I have them on. I think I have the first three on DVD too, but I didn't like the second one, so I don't know.
That's what I remember too. Bourne Stunt Show. Obviously, it's following Jason Bourne, the film franchise. I remember watching. I can remember the exact moment watching Bourne Identity, because I was like, "Wow, that is actually a really good movie." It's solid. The action was great. I loved the entire idea behind the movie, and then finding out like, oh, it's actually books, and like I loved everything about that first movie. And then the second one, The Supremacy, came out, and I was like, ooh, ew. It was, now looking back at it, it's very much Mission Impossible.
Well,
to Mission Impossible 2.
Yeah, it took like things where they're like, people liked the shaky camera, right? And they're like, okay, well, Tom, you're going to hold the camera this time. I'm going to pick you up in my hands. So you're holding the camera, and then I'm holding you, and then I'm going to shake you as hard as I can and throw you back and forth into a wall. And the audience will love not being able to understand any of the actual things that are happening.
And then Supremacy. And Ultimatum. Sorry, I already talked about.
I think I've seen a little bit of Ultimatum though. I've seen like parts of it, and I'm like, oh, that lady's in it again from Pleasantville.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe you can pull up the exact numbers for me. I should have written it down before we started here, but I believe even it might have been years. It might have been after the Bourne rumors started to come out that it could be what was replacing Terminator 2 3D. I want to say we did an episode before Terminator even closed down where we went through like big Universal franchises and just Universal movies in general, and we went through and like listed what made the most money and what we could see, like, would this work well coming into a theme park? At least I'm remembering we did that episode again. I don't remember what year we did, but I remember that the Bourne series, like the entire franchise as a whole, has made over, I think, $1 billion. I could be wrong on that.
I will have to double check that.
Go to the Mojo. Go to the Mojo.
Okay.
That's where you'll get your best. And then once you're on the Mojo, you'll get
my Mojo.
Yes. But yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, the franchise, even though there's now movies that regularly make over $1 billion just in their theatrical run,
looking at Bourne Identity or Bourne. I can't look them all up.
There's a section here. I'm on here too. There is a section on Box Office Mojo where you can look at franchises as a whole and see what was the biggest and stuff. Maybe it was under studios here and then Universal. This is thrilling talk right now.
I'm learning.
Yeah. No, I know it's in here somewhere, but it's we'll figure it out.
All right. Well, the first one made hold on. The first one made domestic total gross 121. So I believe worldwide it was $214 million.
$214 million?
Yes.
Okay.
And that was on a budget of $60 million. So a lower budget. And then we had Bourne Supremacy, right? I wrote Supremacy. I don't know how to spell. Supremacy, not supremacy. Supremacy made worldwide $288 million. Again, this was on a higher budget of $75 million. And then Bourne Ultimatum made the most of them. It was $442 million worldwide. Wait, then there's a fourth one though, isn't there? Fifth one. There's 5 of them.
Yeah. Then we had the 5 movies are Bourne Identity, then Bourne Supremacy, Bourne Ultimatum, Jason Bourne, followed by Bourne Legacy.
Okay, so far with just the 3, we're, I believe, just at $1 billion.
Okay, I already have the number for you now. I finally found the page that was on Box Office Mojo. The total worldwide unadjusted gross for the Bourne movies is $1.6 billion worldwide, with each one coming in at an average 327 million, but like you said, it went up and down.
That's the average because all of them made 200 between like 250 and 300, and then only 2 of them made 444. Made that half point. So
very interesting in the sense that the just domestic gross on here, we're talking 800 million on all of the entire franchise as of right now. So this is where it gets a little interesting compared to like the Fast and Furious franchise, where that was a lot dominated by overseas box offices. And then with the Bourne series, this is literally a straight 50-50 split.
Yeah, it just is the same.
Yeah, the United States loved it just as much as the rest of the markets. So,
do you think that's part of the reason for the draw for the franchise for the thing is that a lot of the international guests will find appeal to it, like you just said, like the Fast and Furious?
That is the tough part, and we'll get into it there in just a second. That's going to be the title of this show. We'll get into it in just a second.
Yeah.
Because,
I'll be right on top of that, Rose.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in just a second. So let's just go through this one by one here. And so I already mentioned that the rumors have been swirling for a long time about a Jason Bourne stunt show coming, and different outlets, including us, have been talking about this for quite a while. We didn't talk about it in public too much, but like I'll even say now at this point, now that it's all out there, but a friend of ours actually saw them building the sets for the stunt show way back when, and so we've known for quite a while that it was actually happening, and they weren't even being built directly at Universal Orlando, so a complete offsite place. And so it's kind of insane that it's been leading up to it, and it's taken so long to get an official confirmation from Universal.
When did Terminator close?
Terminator closed just over 2 years ago. It was September of 2017.
Can't believe it's been 2 years.
I know, it literally felt like yesterday. Like I remember being there at the last day at the last showing, and yeah, I was there for some reason, and for a show that I enjoyed but didn't like love. So yeah, the weird aspects of this job, but yeah, a little over 2 years ago since Terminator 2 3D closed down, and now we have the confirmation that Bourne Stuntacular will be taking up the place of Terminator 2 3D, which, if you don't know, it's in the Hollywood section of Universal Studios Florida, so that covers that base, and it's supposed to open in spring 2020. So let's talk about what Universal had to say about this. So essentially, Universal promises that the live-action Bourne stunt show will blur the lines between stage and cinema in a hybrid form of entertainment that has never been done before. They'll accomplish this in front of guests with the help of live-action performers, high-tech props, and an LED screen that will make it impossible to discern where the live-action ends and the cinema begins. The show will feature everything that fans have come to expect from the Bourne film series, including but not limited to thrilling chase scenes, punishing fistfights, death-defying leaps, and danger at every turn as the story follows Jason Bourne around the globe as sinister characters pursue him. So that is what Universal had to say about it as of the day that it was actually announced, Tuesday, October 15th. So unfortunately, in this circumstance, I'm not going to dwell on this too much, but even on Tuesday, this wasn't really a surprise that it was coming, because someone
I had a little whoops, baby.
Yeah, someone, hopefully they still have a job, and I don't know if they do or not, but regardless, I hope they still have one. But someone made a website page live a little bit too early for Universal's care, and essentially I think it was last Thursday, on the Universal Orlando annual pass holder page, one person noticed it. I can't remember who was the first person to actually see it, but someone noticed that under like the what's new and coming up ahead, there was a section about the Bourne Stuntacular.
Bort. Well, good. They'll have plenty of keychains with that name on it.
They'll have plenty of license plate with Bort on it. No,
my son is also named Bort.
The Bourne Stuntacular announcement was on there, and basically, it didn't take very long once it started getting pushed around, by us and other sites that it was coming. It didn't take long before that page to also be taken down, and I will just be honest about it, in that we put our story up, and then we were asked by Universal to remove our content about it until they made the official release, and it was, a lot of times. It wasn't a surprise that it was out there anymore, so people were still able to talk about it if they saw it. But they asked very. I don't want to say it like this, but they asked nicely, so it was hard not to comply. They wanted to make the release when they announced it, and it's. Information getting out there, even though it's Universal property, information being leaked, even if it's by the company on accident, can still screw up the future of those projects. And I know it sounds stupid that like, oh, well, it's only been, it was literally last week it accidentally happened, and then this week it's announced. What could have changed between now and then? But you don't know. It could have been a thing where, Universal got angry about it and like, okay, well, we weren't ready to announce it. We wanted a big synergy effect, and it all got ruined. Like, I don't know. I'm just spitballing on it.
And I don't like the thing where they say like people don't have integrity who take it down, where they're like, where's the backbone, and being like, no, you put the information out here. Here's the thing: is anybody who thinks that, you already knew the information was there, so you could just Google and find it. Yeah. So it's like what you said. It's not about, they don't give up. I mean, every now and then they'll invite us to events, previews of things and stuff like that, which is very generous, and they don't have to do that. But they're not out here like giving us free stuff. We pay for our annual passes. We go there on our own dime. When we do our dining reviews, we pay for all that stuff. So we're just very honest about that things. And we just had, when somebody reaches and it's like, hey, we actually don't really want, this information is going to come out, but we just didn't want it out yet because of so-and-so, like Craig just said, because of this. For all we know, they could have been pulled that down and then completely been like, it's actually James Bond, not Jason Bourne. Blah, blah, blah. It could have been an old release or something like that. Yeah. It ended up not being that, but you don't know.
No, and it would be hard for it to be a stretch like that, but what you said going off on that, when we go out and we do our food reviews, as we've mentioned many times, we pay for our food reviews. That is coming from us, and anytime we get our annual passes, we buy them on our own. We just renewed our annual passes, as a matter of fact, and the receipt for it is sitting in my pocket still, in my wallet, and on top of that too, it's we do hotel reviews. We're paying for the hotel when those open up. Like, Ryno and I bought our Halloween Horror Nights frequent fear passes. That's not something like, it's not, Universal isn't just handing us free stuff. It's the perk that we get of working with Universal is opportunities like a few weeks ago when we were able to do a show inside the radio station and talk to Charles Gray about Halloween Horror Nights. And there's situations like that and media events where, we sometimes have the chance to cover stuff before anyone else. And a lot of times, the DIS is very heavily video based on stuff. And a lot of times they give us video opportunities that we can't get once it opens up officially to guests. And so it's, like Halloween Horror Nights being a specific example about it. So while we don't always play ball on anything, and we're not afraid to say bad stuff about Universal. Watch a lot of the quick service reviews we do on Universal. There are times where we do work alongside them because it not only helps them, but it also helps us in times too. So, I mean, that's being overly honest. Not something that we had to do, but I will say, I saw a little bit of that on Twitter this past week, and it's just that's our place on it. But hey, doesn't matter. But that page that went up that then eventually was pulled down, basically, I kept all the information on that and the screenshots, and it just said, in spring 2020, join your AP family as Universal Studios Florida debuts a live-action stunt show that will leave audiences marveling. How on earth did they do that? Through a cutting-edge fusion of stagecraft and film, you'll follow our hero Jason Bourne across 3 continents as sinister characters pursue him, hoping to bring him in. You don't just watch it, you feel it. See it a few times to really take it all in. Brace yourself for what's next. Brace yourself for the Bourne Stuntacular.
I hate it.
I will say, that is copy right there. Yeah. Like, whoever wrote that, at the end of the day, they maybe did not light up a big cigar and started patting themselves on the back.
They poured the fanciest alcohol they could find, and they went, "Good job, pal."
I will say, if I wrote that copy, I would have poured myself a big glass of scotch, and I would have lit a cigar just to smell the smell and take it all in, and just leave it at that and say, "I did a good job today. I did a great job today." But that's all the copy on it. So right now, all I have to say about the Bourne Stuntacular, I'm not going to go in with preconceived notions of it, whether or not it's a good stunt show. That is, my only questions are the ones that most people, I believe, have, and that is the Bourne film franchise really relevant enough to justify an attraction, a show in this case, this stunt show. And the next follow-up part of it, as Ryno and I slightly discussed, but not fully in depth before this recording, are stunt shows truly just a thing of the past in theme parks, or is it something that's still vital to them, especially these ones that are about making movies and living the movies?
I can't imagine this show is going to require you to have much knowledge of the Bourne movies at this point, because there isn't an active one in development, although we just read that there is one being pursued, I think, to keep it relevant.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those, and I know there is a TV show that is starting today, Treadstone, which is the project that made Jason Bourne who he is.
Yeah.
So I get that type of synergy thing they're going for, but this is one of those kind of unique franchises where it's actually a lot more complicated than anything else, and it really only had like Jason Bourne, and then you had the Jeremy Renner one, but like, who is going to be the star of the stunt show, and if it is in fact Matt Damon that they got to do this, it's just going to, I really just hope I don't have to watch all these movies to really appreciate it all. But I am with you too, where the fact that they call it a stunt, what is it called? Stuntacular. It reminds me of Batman and Robin's stunt show they did at Six Flags, which was cool when I was a kid. But nowadays, I'm like, you expect that from a Six Flags, and I'm not knocking Six Flags. I think those theme parks are great, regional theme parks like that. But this is supposed to be like next level, and I guess this will be next level. You made a valid point though earlier about saying that maybe it's unique because Universal is the one doing this still.
Yeah, well, and I would argue this is not a knock against Disney for the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular in any ways. I still see that show, not really regularly, but I see it. I see it every so often when I stop and think to myself that this is a remnant of this park that could go at any second. So I want to see it at least every now and then to really take it in. I love the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular for what it is, but in my opinion, that is, I think, a lot of people's preconceived notion on those shows is based on something like that, which which it's like, oh, it's showing us how how they made Indiana Jones, but really, like, that's a different type of stunt spectacular there. And then Terminator 2 3D was never, even though it was in a park that was about how movies are made, it wasn't about how Terminator was made. It was, you literally were going to Cyberdyne and you were being immersed into, you're in Cyberdyne and you're seeing what's happening, and you're right alongside these characters as you're sitting in the audience. So it's kind of funny that even something like Terminator way back when was actually doing this immersion level that, theme parks now are all about, and especially these ones that are about making movies. And so I have no doubts that the Bourne Stuntacular will follow in that same footstep. It won't be this is how we make the Jason Bourne movies, and it shouldn't be that. I think that is a dated concept. But if it takes that same level of style that Terminator had and freshens it up with new technology that actually does make it more integrated in with the live action performers and the screens and everything, if it really takes it to that next level like they are saying it will, then it's going to be visually interesting for a long time. And let's remember that Universal, despite everything, despite closing down Sinbad and despite having something like Fear Factor Live, which isn't a stunt show, but you know the idea of it, but they still have the best stunt show that I've ever watched in any theme park at Universal Studios Hollywood with Waterworld. So
I agree with you, though. We joke. It's cheesy, but it is a really well done stunt. Like the things that's why they're still investing in their international parks. Like they're building that international park and they're making the Waterworld show again, because you'd be like, why are they doing this? But it's because the show itself, though the property it's based on is not everyone's favorite, but the show is a classic,
the Waterworld stunt show is
a plane
awesome.
Flies out and lands in the water.
Yeah, it's plain awesome. The movie,
Awesome?
yeah, it is plain awesome. And I didn't watch the movie before I saw the stunt show. Saw the stunt show, was like, okay, I have to see this.
Oh
movie.
my God, you hadn't seen the movie?
No, and I wanted to poke my eyeballs out with how bad that movie is. It is garbage.
She's my friend. She's my friend.
And then after seeing that, I went back and watched the stunt show again, and like it is a perfect example of how to take something that is completely uninteresting, really bad, but make it have a new life in a new form in a different property. And so where I do believe, and I'm not trying to make this I'm going to knock Disney thing. Disney, I don't believe they knew how to make a good stunt show. And again, I love Indiana Jones, but I don't know if that's because I love Indiana Jones.
How dare you? I worked at Lights Motors Action.
But Lights Motor Action has the same problem that Indiana Jones does, and that's stop. We have to move on. Like
Motors Action.
You can shut up about it. It doesn't exist anymore unless you're in Paris.
It's also not. I don't like it. But that was in that vein of it's telling you how they make a movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, get over that part. Give me a real stunt show.
And that's what I like about Universal, that it's about, okay, we're just going to play this out in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
Again, with Bourne, I personally don't think it's relevant. So unless it is the coolest display of live action using technology to the next level, the franchise itself is not going to be able to overcome it. And, you have to look at stuff like everyone loves watching Jimmy Fallon's clips online. Does that translate into a good ride? No. With Fast and Furious, do people love watching Fast and Furious movies? Yes. I loved Hobbs and Shaw. I mean, I love all the Fast and Furious movies, minus a couple of them that I can do without, but I love them as a whole. And while I enjoy the attraction because of how dumb it is, dude, is it something that's beloved by everyone?
No, it's not beloved by the person sitting next to you.
It's for most of the people I talk to, most of the people who have ever really posted about it in our comments or anything, the general answer is no, people do not like it. And it doesn't matter how they feel about the movies. It did not translate well into the ride that they chose to make out of it. So if the stunt show really isn't next level, I don't think it's going to matter for those couple people out there in the world that say, "Oh, I still love Bourne. I'm still set on it." It's the show has to work first and foremost, and then you can forgive the Bourne side of it if the show's good. But if the show's bad, I don't think the franchise is enough to pull it through. So it's a toughie. But it's coming one way or another in spring 2020. So I look forward to seeing it out of curiosity.
I'm going to do what you said. I'm going to keep my mind open. It's a new thing at the park. I'll experience it. It could be like Jimmy Fallon, where I do it the one or two times I've done it and then never do it again. I don't know, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, time will tell. It wouldn't be the first time that we've been really difficult on something and then had to bite our tongues on it later. So we'll just have to see. So that's going to do it for our talk on Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Fallon.
What is going on with you?
Just because we said Jimmy Fallon. On the Bourne Stuntacular, which I also found out through research, is not the first time Universal has used the word Stuntacular. So it's, it's not something they use all the time, but it was used at least once before. So Stuntacular. It's fun. I don't even know if that's how you pronounce it. Haven't heard anyone pronounce it yet. Because to me, stuntacular, like you have to throw in an extra
Stuntacular.
That's how I would read it.
Stuntacular.
Stuntacular or
Stuntacular.
Tacular.
You have to jump off the T.
Yeah, but it's one of the two. It's either stuntacular or it's stuntacular. It's not stuntacular.
Accularly.
Accularly. Okay. We're going to move on to questions. We're going to answer two of them. Actually, we got a whole bunch of questions. So I think next week, unless some big news breaks or unless we finally get out to see the dark arts at Hogwarts Castle, one of them, unless we do one of those, I think we're going to do our question and answer show next week. So we're going to answer two today, but then we're going to save a whole bunch to answer next week. So still leave your questions at the end of in the comments after you're done watching this show so we can add those to the list for what to do, but we're going to answer 2 now. And the first one, we got to find a way to incorporate HHN in this because we haven't yet. And so the first question comes from Dan and says, I'm going to skip the part where he mentioned that we were begging for questions.
Rude. So rude.
Come on, Dan. But
Come on, Denny. Denny.
Dan says, would you like to work in one of the Halloween Horror Nights houses? If so, which one?
No, I don't want to get punched in the face.
Shut up. Let me finish the questions. Would you like to work in a scare zone? And would you rather be a zombie, carry a chainsaw, be a demogorgon, or suck the faces off of people? Literally speaking, of course.
Oh,
I mean, he said figuratively, though. If you had a friend that was coming to Orlando, would you suggest to him or her to work at Disney, Universal, or other? And do either of us like gladiator movies? I'm hoping that's a reference to
Nightingales?
Well, no, not Nightingales.
The fact that you love Gladiator?
No, it's a play off of The Lion and Airplane. Where it has the kid in the cockpit and like, Joey, do you like movies about gladiators? But then we also have talked about my love of Gladiator on the show before. So, of course, I love movies about gladiators and I like them. But, we'll answer bits and pieces of this. So, Ryno, would you rather work in a house or a scare zone?
Am I the character?
Yeah. No, you're not. You're a person wearing the black sweatshirt that just tells people to move on.
That's what I was thinking.
Which one? No.
I'd like to be that person who's just like, please. See,
would you rather
in a house? You can just sit and watch people in your boo hole, and if you are out on the streets, it's a tough one. But the houses are so loud. I'd be worried more about getting punched in the face in a house. So I'm going to say a scare zone.
Okay. So then, since you chose scare zone, you say which scare zone this year would you think you would thrive in?
I would have quit. The neon one, Anarcade. No, wait. I'm pretty sassy. I guess I could have done that other one.
You could have been a chainsaw hoarder.
Varsity ball. That's not what it's called. Vanity ball.
Vanity balls. And
I don't want your body parts. That's next year's varsity ball.
Yeah, they all don't get to be sassy though. Some have to play it straight.
I do like neon. I like light up things. I'd probably Anarcade.
And you could carry a chainsaw in there.
I could, yeah.
Yeah.
Unless I'm the one who has the 2 masks and I spin around in my cloak.
Yeah.
That one I don't understand, but
hey, I think Universal needs to move on to the next level. Hallow Scream, they had freaking leaf blowers.
It's just like, get off my lawn.
We'll talk more off air about it because I realize I haven't really filled you in on everything from that night yet. But for me, I'm going to be a little vain in this one, in this answer. I would prefer working in the house. Yeah, they don't give you as much freedom they don't give you as much freedom to kind of do your own thing. Like being in the scare zones, you have that free reign. Like, okay, I'm gonna really follow this person as long as I can in this zone if it's really working well, and I can move around. I can come up with some cool ideas for how to get people, and I like that concept of it. But I'm the type of person I need that instant redemption, that instant good feeling, and I feel like maybe the house is the easier scare when it's all said and done because, especially if you get to set it off with that sound. And, you do have times where you mistime your scares and you're in between and people see you coming, so they're not afraid once you get to it. But I feel like...
I see you over there.
Yeah. I feel like when you're in a house, when you mix that sound with the scare and the popping out of your boo hole, I feel like you bring people to the point where they almost fall down out of being frightened. And while I have seen that in the scare zones, it's usually like you see that with like 13-year-old girls who are so terrified that they run around. But in houses, I've seen grown women and men almost fall to the ground completely, and one of those men is sitting beside me.
You have seen someone fall to the ground.
So
stupid trick-or-treaters.
I'm not saying I don't know if vain was the right word. I think I would feel better at the end of the night about how many people I was able to scare in a house versus a scare zone.
Okay.
So, and the house I would work in this year, that's a tough one. It's either between... I think actually no. I'm gonna go 360. I was either saying it's between monsters or graveyard games. I think I'm going with Depths of Fear because I'd be like, hey, I was that ridiculous fish person.
Yeah, I was
that
the
I
fish
managed
guy.
to scare you. I scared you despite looking
I planted
like a
my eggs
complete
in you.
a-hole. Okay. And then you had to take it to the next level. But that was a fun question, Dan. Thank you. I mean, we gave you some crap there, but
Dan the real man.
I bet he is also Dan in real life.
Dan the piano man.
Yeah. What?
Tell me, Dan, do you have any tattoos?
Okay. Okay, I've now found a question.
Okay.
So that's called stalling.
That's called podcasting.
It did not go well, but we did it. We're going to keep on with the HHN fun here, and we're going to go with a question from Ryan Hip for the win. And Ryan says, if you do questions next week, do you think that HHN is going to continue with their 80s theme next year, since they've been doing it for a couple of years now? And whether or not you think they will, do you think they should? Personally, I want to see them start pandering to the 90s nostalgic millennials like myself. The 80s are played out, yo.
Oh, I don't know if the 80s are completely done. I think that the 80s was a
Mecca.
Yes, for horror
Yes.
films and the genre, and especially franchises. And it was very experimental. There were so many types of horror movies that would not have gotten made today at all, I don't think. But we also had that terrible thing we had to live through, which was the torture porn era in the early 2000s. Yeah. But I also agree with. I do think, as much as I do love the 80s aesthetic and the way they've been doing it, especially with the Lagoon show being like you're at a sleepover watching a VHS tape, that's playing out in front of you. I think maybe it is probably time to go into the 90s. But then when you get in the 90s, what are you looking at? You're looking at Halloween movies. You're looking at Nightmare on Elm Street movies. You're looking at, all these movies that started in the 80s, kind of. I mean, not to say there aren't like great horror movies in the 90s. We all know how I feel about The Frighteners, and I would love someday to see that, but I doubt that'll ever happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's, like you said, unfortunately with the 90s, a lot of the same franchises that we still love today still continued on into the 90s, and unfortunately for most of them, the worst movies in those franchises
are in the 90s. Yeah.
So that's not
everybody went to space or got extreme and got involved with extreme sports of some sort.
That being said, I am jonesing for a Leprechaun house one day. I don't know how it would possibly be made, but I love the Leprechaun movies. I know not many people do. I think they are so incredibly dumb.
I still want a Gremlins house, so I refuse to let go of the 80s.
Yeah, well, that's where I'm going to agree and disagree with Ryan Hip for the win here. I'm going to say that I don't think the 80s are played out, as Ryno just said there. I think there's still plenty of material from the 90s or from the 80s that can play out. At the same time, though, as I was reading the question, I'd never read this question before in full depth. Just going to be honest, I did not read it all the way out. When Ryan was writing it out, and he said, "Do you think they should?" The first thing I was like is, "Oh, I actually think they should move on to the '90s to mix it up." So, and then oddly enough, Ryan writes in the next sentence that he thinks they should move on to the '90s.
Played out, yo.
It played out. The '80s played out, yo, and it's the '90s. Does have iconic moments too. We were hoping for a Scream house a couple of years ago. That fell
Scream
through.
is one of my favorite horror films too. So,
and
I love its like self-referential,
yeah.
Sort of metaphysical take on horror movies. Would be fun for Halloween Horror Nights.
And remember, ultimately, as seen with this year, let's say we can throw in an 80s. The 80s and the 90s are so close to each other that I feel like a lot of it can be reused in a way. So a Lagoon show that is like a late night movie marathon. I promise you, I grew up in the 90s. We did that all throughout the entire 90s too. I think that still has a place into it, and it
would be fun if they did it like instead of the VHS tape, it was like bunny ears. So you were trying to get the signal. Like, it could be the TV set, and you're trying to like get the...
And no, for me, it would be, the cable. The cable.
Well, we can't all be millionaires when we were children.
I'm sorry.
I saw Blank Check. I know what your life was.
If it was going to be anything, then they would need to set it in 1997, 1998, when everyone started getting the DVD players. And that's where they could get...
I didn't have a DVD player till 2000 and 2000. Actually, it was 2000. I got one in 2000.
I think we got our first one.
I was in 10th grade.
Our first one might have been 99. It might have even been right at 2000. My uncle got one a lot sooner, though.
Was your first movie Hollow Man starring Kevin Bacon? Because mine was.
It was not. No, it
was part of the gift.
Yeah, we must. It wasn't. But anyways, not going on to that. I think we got it in 2000 because then I got my first movie probably in 2001.
Charlie's Angels and What Lies Beneath. These are the first 3 DVDs I owned.
It's good stuff here, but yeah,
I made some choices.
Good stuff. So I mean, CD players really came into fashion here. So they're CDs. I know the Wedding Singer.
Some fun stuff with the stuff.
I know the Wedding Singer tried to take them over for the 80s.
It plays CDs.
I'll go get a record for it.
I'll go get a record.
But yeah, I would like to see the 90s. Let's be real. They only need to take 1 or 2, 3 not just one. They need to take like 3 90s horror movies, and I think that would justify calling it a 90s event based on what like we've seen this year with the 80s really being in Ghostbusters, Stranger Things, Marathon of Mayhem.
Killer Clowns is 80s.
Yes, Killer Clowns. Thank you. I knew I was forgetting something, but is that it? Is that not really it?
Yeah, because original Monsters is like, you could say that's like...
It's updated
but
Monsters.
But it's supposed to be updated. But
updated to this contemporary time.
Yeah.
Graveyard Games isn't 80s inherently. Depths of Fear isn't. Yeti is set during the like early days of pioneering.
The 1880s.
Yeah. So, and then House of a Thousand Corpses has that 70s, 80s feel to it, but was ultimately from the 2000s. So... Is that on fire?
I think the 80s is like a loose theme. I don't think it's an actual theme this year.
Us, besides the scenes that take place in that was 86, I think, the first scene.
Yeah.
So, it's very, very loose all over. I think there's wiggle room. for the movie. So thank you all for the questions. Like I said, next week we'll answer more. So leave all your questions in the YouTube comments below so that way we can answer them on next week's show. Gonna be a fun one. But until then, that's going to do it for us.
The table.
This is good. I was actually banging my computer, so even worse. So as soon as I turn it on next time, hard drive error.
Won't be my fault for once.
Ooh, it won't be. But yeah, you're going to enjoy that lovely audio. Let me know how much you love it. You can let me know in the comments below. And, as I've always said with that, if you're listening to this as a audio podcast, please also come in and leave your questions. Just head to youtube.com/disunplugged and find this show on there. Very easy to find. There's a playlist right on the main page. Click on this episode and you can leave the comment there too. I promise we will answer your questions if you leave them in the comments. So, until then, thank you, Ryno, for participating in this conversation with me.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And thank you, the audience out there, for listening and watching. We do it for you. We appreciate you and we love you dearly. Very dearly. So, of course, if you're listening to this on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, it's all going through a change right now. iTunes, no more. Apple Podcasts for the win.
Did it happen already?
Yeah, with Catalina coming out.
Oh, my goodness. Oh,
I haven't upgraded yet, so I'm living in the old days. I mean, it's been Apple Podcasts now for a while anyways, but it's just so much easier saying iTunes. But anyways, yeah, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, however you're listening to us. If you can subscribe, please do so and leave us feedback if possible. Always enjoy feedback. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead, subscribe, hit that bell so when we get a new video out there, you get notified first, and hit that thumbs up and leave comments below. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening and watching. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you again next week with another episode of the Diz Unplugged Universal Edition. Until then, remember, we still haven't changed the name.